So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the second cohort of the EMEA Speaker Academy stream. There's also a US stream, which I think are having graduation next week, but I think that's like at about midnight or 1 a.m. our time because they're after work on the Pacific coast. So probably won't be too many people attending that. Great to see so many people here. We've got some great talks lined up for you. We've got our 6 graduates, so that's pretty amazing to get everyone in one place immediately afterwards, something that's always eluded me. We've also got Ankit joining us from the previous round because he didn't get to give his talk at our previous graduation event. So we've got 7 speakers, and prior to those speakers, we've got Julia, who's going to give us a little overview of the wonder that is Speaker Academy. Over to you, Julia.
Yes. Let me go ahead. Yeah, so we're going to talk quickly about Speaker Academy, then we're going to do the graduate talks. If we do have time, I think last time we did this, it was quite nice. We had people ask questions of the experience of being part of Speaker Academy, and then we'll close out with more chit chat like we started with. All right. So Speaker Academy is quite cool and something that's very near and dear to my heart. So it was started in 2016 by Keir and Jody, who's US based. And the goal was really to get different people speaking, people that maybe didn't feel as confident speaking, and to really diversify the speaker pool, especially at Salesforce events. It seemed like to Keir and Jody at the time, it was the same people talking all the time. And they wanted to encourage more people's voices to be heard. And it's pretty important stuff. The duration is 6 weeks, and we've stuck to that in the virtual format too. Started as in person, and it's about an hour, sometimes goes a little bit over, but it's a pretty short session and people learn a lot in a condensed period of time. So the way that we do it is we start off, me and Keir as the facilitators, speaking quite a bit. We present on lots of different topics like writing an abstract, getting over imposter syndrome, structuring a talk, delivery, all sorts of things. And then towards the last few weeks of the class, it really transitions to the students presenting to us and doing dry runs of their talks, presenting their ideas, and really learning from one another. So I think it's really cool. So Keir and I do the work at the beginning, and then we kind of get to chill out a little bit and give feedback and see the speakers shine. I did Speaker Academy. I was part of the second cohort. This was me a long time ago when we still had in-person events. And for me, I was very not confident with public speaking. I hated it. And I did it, and I did the course, really helped me. I did my first talk, my graduation. I found it pretty challenging, but I kept with it and I really enjoyed it. And I think this cohort has been my second time teaching. And during lockdown, I think it's been really great because people have had the time to work on stuff when they haven't been able to necessarily do all the things they normally do. But I think it's been really nice for everyone to kind of get to know some new people, because it's not something I've found that I'm doing very much these days, and to kind of just hear what people are doing in different parts of the world. So it's been pretty cool. So that's kind of an overview of what Speaker Academy is. Anything you want to add, Keir?
No, I think you've covered it nicely there.
All right. Yeah, there's Keir with different hair and me with somewhat different hair, and Christy. All right. So graduate talks. I'll hand over to you, Keir.
Yep. So for the speakers, after we call your name, I'll hand over the presenting to you if I can find you. So Connie will be going first. Just give me a mo. 2 Connies, 3 Connies. So I'll make them all.
How's that possible? There can only be one me.
I've made you co-host once.
Yep.
You got it? Have you got the presentation?
Yep.
Awesome. So we've had a few people asking the questions about signing up for it. So we haven't opened the sign up for a little while because we've got 50+ people register the first time. So we've still got a few people who have been offered places in the next one, but we probably will open for a short period for some additional sign-ups shortly. So look out on Twitter is where we tend to publish it.
Yeah, let's. Okay, that is. Oh, just let me know if you can see my screen.
Certainly can.
Presenter mode.
Perfect.
There we are. Oh boy. Okay. Yes.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
thank you all. The topic of my speak is Salesforce Trainer, the Forgotten Specialists. So let me introduce myself a little bit first, for those who don't know me yet. My name is Connie Hazendonk, and I am a Salesforce professional. I've been working with Salesforce for about 8 years. I started as an admin, and then since the last 6 years, I am a trainer, focusing on end user training and also a certified administrator trainer. And I've been working on a lot of different projects over the years. So let's think about a scenario. So you've built a project and it's close to live date. You have gone through your solution and you had a fantastic team of developers and admins and the like, really building especially what you want. All the milestones have met and you also have passed your UAT. And so now you're ready to train your end users. Well, what are you going to do? Who is going to do this trainer? Is that going to be an administrator? Is it going to be one of your developers, maybe IT or your HR team? So in this talk, I want to focus on why you should use a specialist Salesforce trainer. What is the benefit of using one of us, and also a little bit about when should you get us on board. So what are the benefits for an organization to use a specialist trainer? Now, first of all, we will be focused on training. We'll not be distracted by any other tasks, by things like stand-ups, scrums, or all kinds of messages from people to come in to do stuff. The thing we will do is build the training. The other thing is we know classroom best practices. I think we all probably know from having been in a training that there's people who are very reluctant to go onto a new platform or to learn new things. And we as trainers have experience in how we have to handle those people and how we can make sure that we get them on board. And one of the last ones is we can translate technical requirements. And that's actually in a recent project was actually a demand from one of the clients. They wanted somebody who understood Salesforce speak and was able to explain it to an end user in sort of layman's terms. And that's not necessarily something that everybody can do. And we as trainers really have built our experience in how we can do that. Now, what is then the expertise also for us as specialist trainers? Now, first of all, we can build action-driven training. It sounds very simple, but it's all about making sure that when a user, and when we give them training, they actually get a lot of exercises and by the end of the day, really know what they're supposed to be doing and really get them engaged in what they're supposed to be doing. Most of us also have cross-industry and cross-platform experience. And that can be really helpful. Like I've been working like in medical industries and then I go to a construction company and can overlay that kind of experience, especially, for example, when you talk about field service. You know, they all use people out and about and you can actually use that similarity to help bring them on board and explain things to them in different languages. And we're also good at tailoring our training to the audience, especially for us as end users. We can live in the world of the end user. So we understand the difference between, say, what somebody from sales uses versus somebody from marketing, but also the difference, for example, for a rep versus a CEO. They all need different training, and we can really live into them and make sure that we can build the training around what they need. So let them look at when you need to add us to the team. So there's different scenarios. So it depends with what you do. If you have a big implementation, ideally, the moment you build your project team, you get somebody with the training expertise in and get them to help you build a training plan. That doesn't mean that you need a trainer full time for the whole duration of the project, but from the beginning, you really need to get us on board to see when is training needed and when do you need somebody to come in. But also during sprint planning, I've been in enough projects where I actually had to do every 4 weeks, just build small training sessions. Especially for us developers and also administrators, you think like we built something and the user just knows how to use it because they requested it. That is not always the case. So hence it's useful to have a trainer in-house or on the team to help you build that training that you need. Now, how long or when do you need us? This is a bit of a ballpark, and that's based on my experience. If you want, so to speak, 1 day of training to be built, so say 6-7 hours of training, it takes about 15 working days of development. And that doesn't include things like going between different people, getting information, getting sign off and stuff like that. So if your project goes live in 2 weeks, you're probably too late in getting a trainer on board. You really need to start talking about a month, 2 months, 3 months ahead of go live to actually get these people on board and get us to help you build the training. Because I've been projects where I had like 5-6 days of training to be built. That accumulates. Yes, you can copy stuff from different teams, but it's not all done at the same time. So there's a lot of work involved in doing this. So to sum up, what are the main takeaways? First of all, you need to make sure you get us on board from the beginning for better user adoption. We're very good at bringing back practices to get an impactful and engaging training. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. I'd like you all, thank you for your attention.
Very good. Thank you very much, Connie.
My mouse is gone. Hang on. There we are. Oh, yes.
Awesome. Great job. Thank you very much. Right. Next up, we have Ankit, who was part of the previous cohort, but didn't get his chance to graduate. So Ankit, you are now co-host. So if you want to share your screen.
Yes, sir.
Here, Todd has asked if we want to have questions at the end of presentations.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say hold the questions until we until everyone's had a chance to go through the talks, because then you might then like ask questions about the decks or whatever you want to ask a question about.
Yeah, I think seems like we'll have time to do that, Todd. So note your question, and then you will be able to ask Connie or whomever you would like at the end.
Crazy.
Yeah, really well done, Connie.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So good evening, everyone. My name is Ankit Taneja, and today I want to introduce you to my new venture, Skill Proof, an aptitude testing service for Salesforce Professional. Now, I have been in a freelancing world for the last 5 to 7 years and have worked on plethora of projects from, let's say, small clients, 5 to 10 licenses, up to Fortune 500 companies like eBay, DHL, and Coca-Cola. And I found out that there was something like this tool missing in the ecosystem, so we decided to go with it. So what are we doing? Well, we are trying to add value to the Salesforce recruitment process. So if you are a hiring manager or a tech lead, we are providing you new tools and data so that you can make better decisions when you're hiring new people. Same way, the same tools can be used by job seekers to showcase their skills and prove to their prospective employers that they are the right people for this job. Lastly, these tools can also be used to assess and upskill your internal teams. You know, Salesforce is always coming up with new clouds every now and then, so this can be used to upskill them. How are we doing it? Well, first and foremost, we are working on the developer market, because this is the market that we understand the best. So we go ahead and provide challenges to candidates, and we try to ensure that these challenges are as close to a programming task that they get day in, day out. Then once they submit those, once they do those challenges and submit their results, we go ahead and test them through a battery of unit tests. We test them for execution times. And of course, we also test them for best practices. At the end of it all, we create a proof report. Now, our goal is not to eliminate the face-to-face interview, rather than that give you the fodder so that you can have a better technical round and you can ask questions and see how the candidate thinks and how do they solve problems, because that is more important, that is crucial. So who is this tool for? Well, if you are an end user, let's say you have 50 licenses or less than that, and you don't have any in-house expertise, then SkillProof is for you. If you want to hire someone full-time, or let's say a freelancer or even a consulting partner, then you can use this tool to go ahead and check the knowledge of that partner. Now, if you are a Salesforce partner, let's say an SI or an ISV, and you're looking to hire people with very specific skills, let's say you specialize in pharmaceuticals, then you can use SkillProof to go ahead and test the candidates in those particular skills. Now, for recruiters, SkillProofs is a must. So when you're presenting a candidate to the client, and again, if a client is looking for very specific skills, let's say, Service Cloud and financial services, then you want to ensure that before you present the candidate to the candidate is skill-proofed, and then they can do the task that they're being hired to do. And last but not the least, us, Salesforce professionals. Now, SkillProof gives you one more tool to go ahead and showcase your skills to the prospective customer or to the prospective employer to prove that you are the right person for this job. So why did we go ahead and do it? Well, they are non-existing Salesforce tests, and working in the ecosystem for the last 7 to 8 years, I figured out there are a lot of customers which do not have any in-house knowledge, or who lack the adequate Salesforce knowledge which is required to ask questions during the interviews. The other way, now Salesforce has grown massively over the last years, and there are more clouds than the fingers that I have on my hands. So there are a lot of people who say that they can do a lot of things, but sometimes they're not able to. So this is a nice way to check those skills. And lastly, creating these challenges requires a lot of time and effort. So we go ahead and did it for you so that you can spend the time doing what you do best, which is servicing your customers. A quick note about the team. So currently it's just me and my co-founder Sebastian, who should be in this call somewhere, and we are looking for you. So if you are a hiring manager or a tech lead or a developer and you would like to give us a test ride, please go to skillproof.cloud. It's with double O. Please forgive the naming structure here. So it's skillproof.cloud, and go ahead and sign up, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you. Thank you. And thank you for Speaker Academy for this opportunity.
Nice one.
Yay. Well done, Ankit.
Great work, Ankit.
So do I need to change anything? No, you take it.
No, I'll take your co-host away.
You just did it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. So next up we have Tuche, who I'm sure I pronounced her name wrong. Take it away.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this session to learn more about common misconceptions about admin user in Salesforce. In my previous job, I supported a lot of Salesforce deployments, and one common thing I've noticed is people's overconfidence on the admin user in Salesforce. When there was a deployment error and I told the customer that the deploying user does not have a permission, they looked at me like I was crazy, saying that they are using an admin user. Well, I'm not crazy. So let's see what kind of misconceptions we have. Our agenda for today includes what's an admin user in Salesforce according to the session, types of misconceptions and their details, and then conclusions. Before that, first of all, who am I? My name is Tuche, and I've been working with Salesforce platform since 2014, mainly as a Salesforce developer. I have 7 Salesforce certifications, including Application Architect and Platform Developer 2. And in my free times, I try to learn new things. And at the moment, my favorite new thing to learn is giving myself anxiety by trying to learn public speaking. So, what's an admin user in Salesforce? An admin user is a user that has system administrator profile or a clone of it. It is usually expected that the admin users can do anything and everything in an org. So in a sense, it is a godlike user. And because it is godlike, it might give some expectations that are not fulfilled in real life, and it might cause some frustration. Now, since we defined what an admin user is, now let's take a look what type of common misconceptions we have regarding the admin user. First is, of course, profile level regarding system administrator profile, and then we have user level. For the license level, misconceptions are about managed packages mostly, and last but not least, we have the data visibility level misconceptions. So the profile level, aka I see the object field from the setup, but I get an error if I try to query it, or I don't see it in the layout issues. System administrator profile out of the box has all the permissions. However, they can be actually limited. In a sense, you can remove field level permissions from the admin user. And seeing something in the setup does not necessarily mean that you'll be able to see it in the data level. You need to make sure that admin profile has all the necessary field level permissions. Especially the read permission is really important, while edit is a little bit more optional, given that a system setting is enabled. But a good rule of thumb is always make sure that your system administrator profile has all the necessary permissions, and do not trust that it will magically grant you access to stuff. Next, we have user level, aka why can I see knowledge settings, or why do I get the object campaign can't be updated through a flow error while deploying a flow. One of the most annoying type of error in Salesforce is when Salesforce tells you that a standard object that you know you can use can't be created or updated while you are the admin. And you think to yourself, like, what's wrong with this Salesforce? This is ridiculous. Not really. There are some user level settings like marketing user, service user, or knowledge user. And without those selected, you're not able to deploy some metadata like flows referring campaign or cases, or create some type of data, even though this time you can see them both in setup and in the data level. Next, we have license level, aka why can I see this managed package, objects, or tasks? Especially in production environments, managed packages have license controls that prevents even an admin to not to see the apps, tabs, or objects from the app launcher. Even though the user might have the permission set, or the admin profile might have the relevant permissions, without assigning the license from the setup and installed packages, you won't be able to see it on the app launcher. The last but not least is the data visibility level, aka why can I see this report dashboard file that my user shared with me? Having viewable data or modifiable data is pretty standard for an admin user, but what if I told you that even that does not give you access to see everything? Yes, when reports or dashboards or email templates are in personal folders, they are not visible to the system admins too, and they need to be moved to the shared folder specifically to be able to visible to the admin user. So in conclusion, an admin profile can open many doors in a Salesforce org, but it's not a key for all, and you should expect permission-related issues even when you're not expecting them. Thank you.
Great
Well
job.
done.
Well done indeed. Right, so next up we have Natarajan, who should be able to share his screen by now.
Yep.
Or Julia Doctoroff as he shows up in my chat.
That's what happens when you share your link. Unique links, right?
Links are like needles, you shouldn't share them.
We're clearly the same person, so it's fine.
Who wouldn't want two Julia Doctoroffs? That's what I say. Okay, we can see your screen, Natarajan.
think you're just on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Perfect. We can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Happy New Year to everyone and good evening. I'm Nadrajan Periyaswamy. I've got more than 10 years of experience in Salesforce development and consultant. And for the last 3 years, I've been working as an architect. And today I'm going to talk about how to improve performance and escape governor limits using platform events, which is event-driven architecture. Okay, so today's agenda for the session is business and developer concerns, traditional development approach and challenges, platform events and advantages, and the experiments I have done, followed by Q&A. Okay, so one major concern all the well-established Salesforce instances has got right now is their Salesforce instance is too slow. Why? Because a decade back or half a decade back, there is no QBL Apex or there is no platform events. So what we did is we added a lot of Apex code in asynchronous context, which ended up for the slow performance of the system. And also, as we add more and more functionality, the record saving times will eventually become slower and slower. In addition to that, the transactions do hit a lot of governor limits if you don't plan and design well. Also, this introduces a gap in user experience. What I mean is, if you save a record, you'll not be, finding all the related records for the first couple of minutes because the jobs will execute in the backend as a asynchronous execution. Okay, so why slow performing system? Because we are performing too many actions synchronously, which takes more CPU time, and it does hit a lot of kernel limits when we don't plan well. So one good example over here is when we close in an opportunity, we might need to create a task, we might need to create an order and create a new opportunity. And we might have added all these in asynchronous epics where the functionalities are tightly coupled, which leads to the slow performance of the application. And to the rescue, we had asynchronous execution, which is again a traditional approach, which is queuable epics, batch epics, or future epics. So which improves the performance, also gives a lot of governor limits for us. But again, as I explained, it introduces gap in user experience, and it also hits some asynchronous limit, like too many queuable jobs, too many feature epics, or feature epics cannot be called from batch or future, something like this. But because the transactions are decoupled, it still improves the performance a lot. But to the rescue, we have platform events right now. When we compare the performance with asynchronous epics and platform events perform really a lot better than asynchronous epics. So it improves the performance comparing the traditional development approach. And we can escape the governor limits because the trigger in platform event always executes synchronously. I mean, it has got the synchronous limits, so you don't have to really worry like, okay, if you execute a batch which triggers the event, there will be only one feature can be called or only one queuable can be called. Still the synchronous limit will be applicable for the events. And it also guarantees the order of execution. So in queuable epics or feature epics, we don't know which job will execute first, but whereas in platform events, all the events will be executed in the same order. And it reduces the gap in user experience because all these transactions are decoupled and it all runs in a separate thread. So for example, we'll have one event to create a new opportunity and one event to create task, one event to create order. So all these events run in a separate thread, and when right after we save the record, we'll be able to see the renewal opportunity, task created, order created instantly. So these are my experiments. So I did try to integrate two Salesforce instances using asynchronous epics and platform events. So whereas this is just this may not be accurate, and as you know, we are like using multi-tenant architecture. And for future, it took almost 1 second, 200 milliseconds for me to sync record between two instances. And for QBL, it's an average of 260 milliseconds, and for platform events, it's less, which is 210 to 220. But this is all based on a developer edition. But in production instances, it might take longer if there are too many processes running in the backend. Also, I did a lot heavy, huge testing in a sandbox using platform events, where I was able to publish millions of events, where client systems are able to get that seamlessly without any issues. Okay, so this slide just explains what enterprise messaging platform advantages, types, etc. So again, like the session is shared, you all can take a look into this later. Any questions? And thank you all for your time.
Well done. That was great.
Good job, Natarajan. Good job indeed. Right, next up we have Jasmine.
Hello, yes. So I'm going to present my screen. Hi everyone, I'm Jasmine. I moved over from New Zealand 4 years ago to experience the big city life. Arts, culture, drinking, travel, all of those things. I live alone in a small flat in the heart of London. Well, not in the heart, kind of to the side and the bottom. And I have usually people come and stay from all corners of the world. I'm an extrovert and I'm a positive person, and everything was great until COVID happened to us all. So today I'm actually going to talk about why I threw out my lockdown to-do list and share some insights on productivity. Can you see my screen, just to check?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So yes, as I said, COVID happened to us all. To recap, if no one can remember, it meant that all means of travel were stopped, borders were closed, jobs and stability went out the door, and toilet paper became the biggest drama. I was waiting personally on a new job to start with Salesforce. I had 2 of my close friends pack their bags within 24 hours and fly back to New Zealand because the borders were closing. I had family repeatedly calling me, asking me to come back home. And as I said before, the borders closed. So I didn't really have any legitimate plans to be able to see my parents or my family in the near future. So it was a pretty stressful time for all of us, but in my journey, it was a little bit odd. So back home, we have an advert where a wife goes up to her husband and she hands him a round to it because he always says, when I get around to it. So in my mind, this was my time to shine. We were in a lockdown, we were restricted, we had all this time, and it was a chance for me to get all the jobs and activities that I wanted to do done. I made a collection of tasks to do that sounded or seemed like something cool that I would want to do, or a thought or an idea that I'd had one time. For example, I got a Millennium Falcon Lego set, which is about 13 kgs worth of Lego. I started playing with YouTube and streaming, and I ordered a really beautiful puzzle. I did have some goldfish, but they didn't make it. So we'll just leave that for now. My plan seemed simple, and it was the same as everyone else. Use this time and make something better of myself. And instead of going out and socializing the big 5 nights a week, I was going to be bored. So I would use that time to achieve things. So have something to show for the time that we had been given. This idea in my head that I had no excuses and time alone needed to be spent on making myself more, pretty much better. So I tried to fill the void of change and confusion with a series of hobbies that I thought would make me feel better. But instead, I slept a lot. I would stare off into the distance, and I would leave everything for tomorrows. So puzzles were only fun when they were with other people. Personally, I realized I don't actually like doing puzzles. I like finishing puzzles. Reading felt like an impossible task because I really didn't care about the stories that I was trying to read. Recording video updates for friends and family kind of just never got posted. And I didn't actually have space to put a large Lego Millennium Falcon. Like, my flat's tiny, so that was really impractical. I had all these excuses as to why I wasn't going to do it. And my journey played out more like this. Some days I would make a to-do list and work through half of it, but actually I was writing down things I'd already done. And other days I couldn't get out of bed or do the dishes. Still generally positive and still able to do my job, which I'd started with Salesforce. But when it came to my personal life, I was doing nothing. So I was miserable, pretty much. And my plants were dying and my dishes were piling up and my clothes couldn't fit. So I was neglecting the basics and doom scrolling and procrastinating and all those things. And I was wondering, like, why is this happening to me? Why can't I get through these tasks? So this was over a long period of time. Social media and social expectations had a massive part to play in it. I did know that, but I did some further research and I learned 3 things. So why? Procrastination is connected to emotions. It's not about laziness, but when you don't feel good, doing things that should bring you joy, or just doing anything when you don't feel good, is harder. It's harder to persuade yourself to do that thing. The second thing I learned was depression is not a mental disorder, but a coping mechanism. So I did some research, and how you keep your head down, and with depression, you keep your head down and you switch into survival mode as a basic function so that you can adjust to your surroundings. So it's not like you have a problem, it's your body's reaction on how to cope with environmental or social changes. The third thing I kind of knew, and I hinted at with social, was refusing to acknowledge bad things are happening as a form of toxic positivity. So thinking positive thoughts and I'll just pretend everything's fine actually doesn't help you cope with what's happening around you. And a bonus fact that I learned that I was really surprised at was eating happy foods, or foods that make you happy, actually boosts your serotonin. So that was news to me, and I started eating nice things and looking for ways in which to get out of this hibernation. So touching on depression and the procrastination. So I started to adjust to my new normal as I got used to the things that were happening around me. And hearing the word starting a new job in itself is very stressful was a light bulb. Having my friends regularly call me or message me to keep in touch about how rubbish it was a light bulb. And going to a PT and starting training sessions was great for boosting serotonin and endorphins, but also a light bulb because there were times when I didn't leave my house for weeks. So now I have a whole lot of light bulbs, or a whole set of party lights. And sometimes those bulbs go out and need replacing, but I have enough of them, so keep the light going. And instead of doing a to-do list, I actually just do things that I want to do, not things that I think I should be doing to make my life better. So ultimately what I learned was emotions are not a bad thing. They are what make us human. And if I reflect on other times when I've procrastinated or when I haven't felt very good, it has been linked to emotions, but I've just probably called myself lazy. If we've suppressed these emotions or we ignore these emotions, they can send out signals in other ways. And COVID is still happening. So I regularly check my emotional state and I plan when I want to procrastinate. So when I know I'm going to have a bad day or I'm going to have a downtime, or if I've been talking to my family, I don't make any other plans. I just wallow because I need to. And that's how I've gotten through COVID. If you would like any of the references that I actually, in the studies that I looked up on procrastination, depression, and toxic positivity, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Ooh. Sounds weird saying woo, but it's beautiful. It's been beautiful the whole way through. I just have to share that with
Thank
everyone.
you, Jasmine. That's very relatable, for sure.
Yeah, I thought so.
Right, so next up we have Thomas.
Yes. So how I will be unable to outperform this amazing presentation. Well done, Jasmine. Wow. Okay, you can see my screen, I think.
Yes.
Yes,
yeah,
perfect.
Perfect. This is the beautiful city of Groningen, where I'm based. All right. So let's start the presentation. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Well, so introducing your Salesforce solution to your end users can be exciting. But what if your end users are not on board? High resistance levels and low engagement among end users during Salesforce implementation projects can be huge deal breakers in the success of your project. My name is Thomas Klopsa, and as a change management graduate and a co-founder of a Salesforce consulting firm, I will share my 5 best practices for communicating change and to get and keep your users on board. So let's walk through the agenda of this talk. First of all, I will set the stage by talking you through the change management process. Then I'll share my 5 best practices you can use right away. And lastly, we will discuss the key takeaways of this presentation. All right, so let's start by setting the stage and introducing the change management process. I'd like to see, I'd like to think of the change management process explained by a model called the change path model. And that model consists of 4 phases: awakening, mobilization, acceleration, and institutionalization. And yeah, if we start with the awakening phase, in this phase, you identify the need for change by an organizational analysis. So you can see this as a design phase of your Salesforce implementation. And the goal is to get a deep understanding of what is going on inside the organization. Think, for example, of the culture. And the culture is key in the way how you are going to communicate your change and the implementation. Second phase is the mobilization phase. And here you determine what specifically needs to be changed. Also part of the design phase of your Salesforce implementation. And in this phase, development of the vision for change is key. And it's key in how the change is promoted and communicated in the organization. Third phase is the acceleration phase. And in this phase, you are going to implement Salesforce and configure Salesforce. So it's all about action planning and implementation. And you take the insights gained earlier and translate them into a detailed plan for action in order to bring the change to life. And lastly, you have the institutionalization phase. And in this phase, it is key to track the change periodically to help assess what is needed, measure progress towards the goal, and to make modifications as needed and mitigate risk. And this is also the phase where you go live and give the user training. But before the end user is actively involved, a lot of preparation needs to be done. And without this proper preparation, it's like building a house without a blueprint. So why is an understanding of this model so valuable? I think that every phase needs a different form of communication, different paths. But however, transparency and communication is key in order to successfully institutionalize the change and to successfully implement Salesforce. Now we've set the stage. It's time to share my 5 secrets to success or the best practices. First of all, keep people involved and informed. So keep people involved in making decisions that affect them. It's all about being transparent towards your end users. Keep people informed about the ongoing change, when, why, and how, and include honest appraisals of risks, costs, benefits, and consequences. But also to keep surprises to a minimum through regular communication about the changes and anticipating on questions and concerns. The second best practice is to enhance your credibility. And you can do this by using a credible spokesperson who are liked within the organization and trusted. So, for example, the CEO or managers, and you can see these people as your project sponsor and engage them as a project sponsor as well. And using positive messages that appeal logic and are consistent as well, and using multiple channels and repetition. And an important thing to remember is that you can never over communicate during this whole implementation process. Third one is celebrate progress, of course. So publicize successful changes and progress to keep a positive vibe among the implementation process. And the fourth one, I think, is one of the most important best practices, and that is two-way communication. And why is it so important? Because this helps you to see change from the employee or end user perspective, and use this awareness to help with planning and future communication related to the change. So you have to provide opportunities for employees to express their feelings and receive validation and reassurance. So ensure you address the concerns that are raised. Lastly, consistency. And you really have to ensure existing structures and systems and processes are not sending conflicting messages. This can obstruct the change and create cynicism in the process. And if they are, recognize their impact, discuss them openly, and take steps to address the issue. So I think the common thread of these best practices is that communication should be at the center of your implementation strategy. It's not a one-time investment, but instead, something you build into your business process, taking place before, during, and after deployment. So clear, consistent, and multi-channel communication must be at the core of your implementation strategy. In other words, communication is key, and you can never over-communicate. So that's it. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, please get in touch with me.
Great job, Thomas. Good stuff.
Thank you.
I can't believe it's whizzed through so quickly, but it's time to move on to our final talk of the evening, which is Paul.
Hey. Cool. Can everyone hear? Can people hear me and see a screen?
Yes to both.
All good, Paul.
Good. And can people still see my screen? Previously, I tried this out and people saw my script, which wasn't so good.
No, we do not see any of that.
Cool. When I say script, it's some hints as to what to talk about. Just in case I got bored. Just following on for Thomas's, I'm going to dive deeper into some of the points that he raised, I feel. So it's all linked, and thank you in advance for your time. So first of all, thanks folks for being with me. Over the next 5 minutes, we're going to have a look at how to make a great Salesforce implementation, recovering an instance that's previously been on shaky ground. We're going to dive into the first 24 hours to see what you can do to make it succeed for the long term. I'll be covering the prep work, who you should talk to, and the takeaway strategies. It's all based on personal experience. Speaking of personal, my name is Paul Ginsberg, and I'm based in Amsterdam. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 10 years, and in 2018, I was awarded a golden hoodie for my work in the Trailblazer community. The prelude, the prep work. So you've landed a new job or assignment. You've looked at the company website as this is their shop window. It's given you an understanding of how professional they are and what their mission appears to be. Start by making mental notes of any issues that you see. Combine it with your experience of the initial conversations you've already had when landing the gig. How good were the communications? How prompt and clear were your new employers? Did they manage to keep appointments on time? What issues have they already highlighted? These will give you an insight into the company culture and help you manage your expectations. To be frank, if they are chaotic in any of the above, it's likely that they'll continue to be so once you start. That's fine. It gives you the opportunities to think of strategies on how to manage this. Okay, we're ready at day one. First impressions matter. In reality, it's still a job interview. We're talking back to Thomas's credibility. You haven't built up much of a rapport or evidence trail yet. The platform has acknowledged issues, and if you want to see these turned around, then you have to roll up your sleeves and get stuck in. You'll need to build up confidence within the organization, which you can achieve by short-term wins. Long-term goals, which require a complete system upgrade, just take too long. You'll lose any goodwill if you wait for those to happen. We're not living in a perfect world, back to Jasmine, and we need to accept these trade-offs. So who's our first interviewee? Management. Ask management what their concerns are about Salesforce. That's vital, but also ask them where the successes are. We want that 360-degree view, rather than starting all over again and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Make sure you ask what the business goals are, both long and short term. Here it may get fuzzy. Lack of clear direction is often a reason why Salesforce implementations fail. The thing is, you have to know where you are before you can know which direction to head in. We'll come back to some solutions for these challenges later. There's other members of the team to meet first. Your secret weapon. Speak to your predecessor if at all possible. Typically, they get all the blame and none of the credit. You don't know the reasons why they did what they did. Learning curves, old style best practice, the business being unclear with what it wanted, budgetary issues. Ask them what they want to share. They'll be able to tell you the pressure points, and you may even come away with a cache of passwords that can come in handy. Your barometer. Armed with the information you now know, ask to speak to the person that hates the system the most. The truth is, they may be the person that uses the system the most, which is why they've developed that particular point of view. If you can make them happier, perhaps by removing some of their pain, they'll likely use their communication skills to boost you and give you honest insights as to how you're progressing. At a previous assignment, I knew I had succeeded about 3 months in when a lady who had been there rather a long time started smiling. I had just presumed they were the permanently grumpy type. It turns out that having to deal with Salesforce when it's not aligned with your job role can make you that way. There's usually a reason. So, the secret sauce. Above anything else, I recommend transparency. Explain what you do know and what you don't know. Point out when the members of the business aren't aligned. Otherwise, you risk mismanaging people's expectations and setting them up for more failure. What I haven't covered is some of the tips and tricks you need to factor in during and after these discussions. People like to see instant results. Two very suitable methods of reporting, as that showcases data already in Salesforce, and you don't normally need to adjust any processes to make it work. The other method is hands-on training, which often solves the complaint that people don't understand the system. Too often, training has been rushed, we're back to Connie, in the whole implementation and upgrade process. Finally, the other trick up your sleeve is to regard yourself as an advisor to the business. Schedule sessions with the process owners to get clarity on where they intend to get to and whose responsibility it is. Often, this is the surgery that fixes the underlying misalignment. And that, starting to show the business your philosophy of how to turn things around, is the end of your first day. And one extra item, I think on behalf of all of myself and my fellow graduates, a huge thank you to Kira and Julia for all their time and their support. I know I had some experience, but I really needed this and I really appreciate this. And this is actually only the second presentation I've ever given. My first one I gave 10 times. So I'm pleased to now be able to move on. Thank you. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Paul. Well done. It's been a pleasure to have you.
And that was complete fluke that Paul went last and was able to refer to everybody else's talks because I just ran the names through a randomizer. So there you go. Perfect synergy. So I've heard all those talks a number of times before, but this is the first time I've actually sat and kind of just watched them and listened to them as an audience rather than trying to critique. I really enjoyed them all. So great job, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. That was, I feel like Kira and I joked that the talks are really polished and that we're kind of going to be out of a job soon. So I think people come to Speaker Academy and they're already, I think, so brilliant. And it's just about kind of giving some tips and getting feedback from everyone, and everybody really shines. So really came through tonight.